Joining us now to analyze the coverage, Robby Suave, senior editor at Reason Magazine, and Meghan Hays, a former top aide in the Biden campaign and White House. Robby, Pete Hegseth certainly didn't help himself. The New York Times quoting 4 people familiar with the chat as saying that he did share this with family members. I have no independent reporting on this, but it does seem that the press is absolutely out to get him.
Absolutely out to get him. They have been from the start drumming up all sorts of the personal controversies he's had during his confirmation hearing. But what I find so interesting is this leak system that's apparently taking place. But of course, we know for the initial Signal chat, the responsible party, it's Jeffrey Goldberg at The Atlantic, was in it because of Mike Walls. We know that's why it happened.
He was inadvertently invited, and that wasn't Pete Hegseth's fault at all.
Yeah, but that guy, there's been no accountability for that guy. So I found it so weird that the press focuses on Hegseth when we know the identity of the person who led to the initial controversy. I think that, to your point, shows how the media just wants to claim Hegseth as a scalp because maybe he's a figure of Fox News, a conservative media personality. And the Trump administration's policy is no scalps. Just because the media tells us we shouldn't like someone, that is no credit to that view.
I have a question here. Does the media want a scalp? You've already answered that.
Oh, yeah.
Are the media a good target for Pete Hegseth in this environment?
No, it's rich coming from someone who was a member of the media. And the reason that they're not going after Mike Walls is because he did not share classified information on a Signal chat. And it's not just that he shares classified information, it's he's now done it again. He had a separate internet line installed in his office, which goes against all types of security protocols here. So it's not that the media is out to get him. He's actually done things that are against protocols here. And if I did this, having a security clearance, I would have been fired immediately.
I want to come back to that, but the point that you sort of alluded to, I think, and you tell me if this is wrong, that most journalists resent Pete Hegseth. And the reason they resent him is that he was a weekend host here at Fox who didn't have the usual resume of somebody who would be in charge of the Pentagon. Is that affecting the tone of the coverage?
Oh, 100%. And there's a kind of, if you have experience and expertise, you get treated more favorably by the press, even if ideologically you're still at odds with them. I think Marco Rubio benefits from that he's a smoother operator in terms of DC and in terms of the press. Hegseth has been combative with the media for years and years and years, and that's affecting him. But behind the surface, I think we're missing the forest for the trees to some degree with this whole story. There is an ideological difference within the MAGA coalition on foreign policy, including within the Pentagon. Some of these people have been pushed out, are more America first. They don't want open conflict with Iran. That's the real story behind the scenes, is that faction seems to be pushing out and losing an ideological battle. But the press is focused on, how well Hegseth is, rising to the moment or not. There's an actual foreign policy thing at stake, which is whether we're going to be at war with Iran.
Almost like covering a campaign.
Yeah.
And so there's a drip going on there. Every little thing gets blown up. So, for example, and you alluded to this, Signal, it's on his computer. Well, it turns out that at this giant building across the river, most of it doesn't have cell service. That is a scandal. I don't understand why they can't fix that. You have these media reports that Hegseth shouted at the acting Joint Chiefs Chairman, said he was going to give him a polygraph, didn't turn out to give him a polygraph, that 5 top officials have now either been fired or resigned in these leak investigations. And so that's led to a lot of stories about chaos and dysfunction, Meghan.
Yeah, absolutely. But the reason that the Pentagon doesn't have cell service is because most of the information that is discussed there is secure. And so most of those offices are secure facilities, SCIFs. So they are not supposed to have their cell phones or any outside sources in there for the exact reason of not leaking confidential information. So that's why a lot of the building does not have cell service. But I also think that people are targeting Hegseth because what he is doing is putting the military at risk. And I think that the broader American people see that. And I think that is what the story is, as well as the Iran issue.
Well, there is this whole semantic debate, and we went through this on the earlier Signal chat controversy, about whether the information was classified or not. The New York Times story about sharing with family members didn't use the word classified. It kind of sidestepped that. And personally, I can't think of anything that should more be classified than, he says they're not texting war plans. The timing of the planned bombing raid against the Houthi terrorists, as well as what military equipment was being used, were that to leak out. Fortunately, it did not. that could have endangered our military people.
Well, and the government does routine over-classification, I would argue, of everything. They would classify their grocery list. This is a constant bane for transparency-oriented journalists, that they classify everything. So the idea that this and this alone would be something you could share doesn't really make sense. But it goes back to the broader, like you used a phrase just now, this is not how it's done. This is not the way we do it. Without defending Hegseth on this particular thing, it is kind of a, yeah, well, you're trying to do things differently than the way things have been done, and you're not allowed to do that. But that is frustrating, I think, for Trump people, because we brought Trump to power to change things, and now you're saying there's some inner process or system that thwarts us from having conversations about what our foreign policy should be. But didn't we win the election? Don't we get to determine what those processes and policies are? You're saying there's just a way it's always done, but
I don't disagree with what
Yeah.
you're saying, but I do disagree that he should be allowed to tell people what the military plans are for a strike to his wife and to his lawyer over a unclassified system. But I agree with you. It's like this break glass mentality is what the Trump administration is doing. It's not boding well for his approval ratings right now, but I don't disagree that they are brought in to do something different.
The White House and DOD, in their denial, said, well, he didn't share classified information, but not necessarily disputing the facts. It doesn't make the story true, but nevertheless. NPR reported that, as things have kind of heated up, shall we say, that we have a situation where the White House is denying the NPR report that Trump, as a kind of a backup plan, is looking for possible replacements. Why won't the media accept that Trump is standing by his guy?
Well, the media misses the era in which they mattered to people on the right
This
at
is
all.
a desperate cry for relevance?
Yeah,
and
they're
help?
like, but wait, we're supposed to say, no, this guy, it's not just we disagree with him, but he's scandal-plagued, and we're showing out you the scandal, so you got to get rid of him, right? And the Trump administration is looking at them saying, no. They might get rid of him.
Yeah.
They could totally happen, but they will not tell the press ahead of time they're doing that. They will not attribute it to anything mainstream media does. What conservative media has to say about it might matter, but what the mainstream media says about the fitness or the level of scandal of any Trump figure, that does not matter to the president and his people whatsoever. In fact, it makes them like the person more, probably.
Oh, that's interesting. The more you get beat up by the media, the more sympathy there is, at least among the president's supporters.
I just think that if Pete Hegseth wanted this story to go away, he would stop doing interviews, sort of like Scott Jennings said in your opening package.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing. Like, just don't talk to the press, but how does that help?
And then you just keep giving it legs. So if you just stop talking about it and stop giving press more fuel for their fire, this will go away, and NPR wouldn't have to be reporting that they're looking for people. So everyone is just giving this more oxygen.
I mean, he was cornered during the Easter egg hunt. He couldn't not answer questions
Right, but
of the press.
Then he went on
No,
TV.
I know,
that was
I
like the
know.
day after that reporting, but they just keep going with it, and I think that's a major problem.
Right. No, that was interesting because of the musical accompaniment in the background. Now, here's
the Easter bunny in the background.
Here's a story that I think is complete and total BS, and that is about Hegseth wanting a makeup room at the Pentagon. Now, if you think about it, I mean, there was some question about how much it would cost, and they scaled it back. But, I mean, you think they don't get makeup at the White House? I mean, these people are on TV every day, and they want to look good. You wear more makeup than us, so what do you think?
I mean, I
briefly?
think I don't know what the rooms look like at the Pentagon. I don't. The room they showed on TV, I think it's fine. I don't think they should be paying taxpayer dollars to refit to makeup rooms.
Why?
But why? Because taxpayer dollars should not be going to makeup rooms. If Pete Hegseth wants a makeup room, he can pay for that makeup room, just like as if they had to do that in the White House. The president would have to pay for his own makeup if he was doing something outside of a television interview being provided for him.
All right, I profoundly disagree.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.